Hello and welcome to the show. Now, something that I've always been passionate about is children that are sick and those kids that have leukemia and all those kind of things. And I think you guys have been following that for a long time on my Facebook, Twitter, and on my website. Now, we're back at that stage where we need to be talking about this. And this is serious business because we need people to help organizations like the Sunflower Fund do what they do. And they're here to tell me today what they are doing and how you can assist as a viewer. You'll notice that I'm wearing one of these bright bandanas, which you're probably seeing out in the stores. Please do support that. We're going to talk about that a bit later. Abigail's here. Welcome to the show.
Hello, how do you do?
I'm well, Abigail. Thank you for coming. It's something always that's close to my heart, and that's leukemia, the children, and what we can do as a society to make that a bit better.
Yes.
Now, you guys have been on it for many, many years. I think the Sunflower Campaign and Fund is one that is sort of championing the cause at the moment.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about the fund before we go into the nitty-gritty of it all.
Okay. How the Sunflower Fund came about happened in 1999. Started by a mom who lost a son to leukemia, and that was because she couldn't find a match for a son. We didn't have enough donors on the registry.
So that was the defining moment, that
Absolutely.
the starting point. It was
Absolutely. And
so that story then is not in vain, because many other people have benefited from an unfortunate story, one then say.
Oh, absolutely. Lots of lives have been saved because of Tina Buerter's determination that other parents don't have to endure the loss that she did. And Chris Corlett, his life was, he lived for a reason, you know. His life wasn't in vain, neither was his death. So, yeah.
So we see the advent of the campaign and the fund. The focus now obviously has been what it was in the past, and that was to get as much people on the registry. I think for the public, they need to understand what this registry is about. We know when we go into a Pick n Pay store, we see these colorful bandanas, and we know that they are supporting a particular campaign.
Yes.
But I think that there's an education around this. We need to go and inform the public exactly what the registry is about.
Okay. The South African Bone Marrow Registry, that is where people who suffer from leukemia and other life-threatening blood disorders, that is where they would search for a bone marrow stem cell donor match. Now, where the Sunflower fits in is that the Sunflower would create awareness and educate the public, and then also recruit bone marrow stem cell donors to the South African Bone Marrow Registry in order to grow it, so that more patients have a chance of finding their match on the registry.
I think that's the punitive stance here, and that's about finding a match.
Yes.
Because we know that when you have these disorders, that time starts running out, and it's always this race to find that match. But if there was a registry that had the match sitting there waiting, dynamics would have been different.
Oh, yes.
What are the challenges here? Because we're talking about over 50 million people in South Africa, an X amount of people coming from different ethnic backgrounds, and South Africa is a cosmopolitan environment.
Absolutely.
The Western Cape in particular is even more cosmopolitan than the other regions, in my view.
Yes.
And so, but at the same time, we still find people like you knocking on the door and saying we have a problem. So what is the problem?
Okay. There are several obstacles to growing the registry. Challenges like misconception of what the process is to be a donor. So one of the main misconceptions is pretty scary. People believe that if you are going to donate bone marrow, they're going to drill into your bone.
And you're going to lay on an operating table and someone's going to open your chest.
Anesthetic, and it's not so. It's not so. It's actually so simple and painless. You know, when you go and you donate blood, that's similar to what you're basically doing.
So maybe the word transplant and donor is maybe words that we maybe need to understand within the context of this particular case.
Okay.
And I think that maybe there should have been a more euphemistic term to water that down. But maybe now with us telling people that the bone marrow transplant does not mean that you're going to lay on an operating theatre table with a light on top of you with doctors around it saying, I'm going to start now. Kind of thing. There's nothing like that.
Nothing as scary as that, not even close to that. Actually, you're going to end up relaxing while everything else does its work. So let me just take you through the process. You are found to be a match for a patient. You now are going to possibly save a life. What they will do is they will hook you up to a machine called a cell separator. There'll be a tube in your one arm, and that's where your peripheral blood will flow from. It goes through this machine, the cell separator, which would extract the stem cells from your blood. And once it has
as a donor at that point, I'm sitting on a chair, I've got this thing happening, right? And there's no sort of actual pain or anything else that goes on with that. No. There's obviously tests prior to that to make sure that your blood pressure is okay and all of those things are in order, and that you stay in a homeostatic space.
Yes. Yeah. You will be taken to the closest hospital where transplants are done or where this process can be done. They will take you through a battery of tests to ensure that you are healthy prior to harvesting your stem cells.
How do you feel after that as a donor? Is it maybe just an instance of taking a cup of coffee and tea to get your system back up, or are there any effects at all?
From what we've been told, there isn't much effect. You might feel a little bit fluish, a little bit tired, but that's the extent.
But there's no price to pay to attempt to save someone's life.
There's no price to pay, absolutely. You're basically giving up a few hours of your time because the process will take about 4 to 7 hours, depending on how much stem cells they actually require. And that is all that's really needed to save a life. So can you imagine? I think anybody would be willing to just give a few hours to save a life. It's simple. Now, absolutely simple.
I want to get down into the nitty-gritty of things with regards to demographics. And I think our viewers need to understand that when we talk about demographics, we are not talking about race lines. We are talking about demographics primarily because demographics play a major role in terms of your genetic makeup and your DNA makeup and where you come from and who your mother and father was and where all of that happened. That plays a role with medical science. And so we need to talk about that. So we have a challenge, and the challenge, Abigail, you need to tell us what the challenge is. I think that certain communities are not understanding that it's their own community that has a problem because they're not coming forward.
That's right. You need to understand that when they are testing for a matching bone marrow stem cell donor to save a patient's life, they're basically looking for your DNA twin. Now, on a genetic level, you will find that your DNA twin is probably going to be the same race as you. So, yes, if I was a patient, my match would probably be colored. And that is why we put so much emphasis on trying to recruit more people, more donors, potential donors, from the colored community, the black community, the Indian community, because there's a shortage on the registry, a drastic shortage. And if we didn't have the shortage, the chances of a patient, a colored, black, Indian patient, chances would be higher of them finding their match.
Let's be practical about this. Somebody comes in and says that they need a transplant and we need to find a match. What are the numbers we're looking at the moment with regards to the chances of that match being around?
Right now, 1 in 100,000.
So that might not seem like a big number, but when one introspects, it is a big number, because you're effectively saying that you are running out of time. And I think I want our viewers to put themselves in that space. Your child, your mother, your father, you're sitting there, you're running out of time. So you have a problem, and your kid has a problem, like for example, even from a flu or a broken tooth or something, you run immediately to get medical attention. Now imagine the distress of a parent knowing that their child has this problem, but you still have to sift through 100,000 people. What is that? Well, that must be a serious amount of distress, not on the patient, but on the family at the same time.
Absolutely.
And people like you and I sitting out there can solve the problem by simply coming forward.
Simple, absolutely simple. The other problem is that people, the one challenge is people are scared that they're going to have their bones drilled into. I'm telling them now, it's not so, not at all. It's a very simple and easy procedure and painless. The other problem is that people have the misconception that it costs for them to join the registry. And I want to tell them now, it doesn't cost you a cent.
So there is a cost involved, but the Sunflower Fund and campaign is looking at that cost to make sure that people get registered.
We carry the cost. It's an obstacle that we don't want other people.
So are you frankly saying that people that want to get tested, for them it's free?
It's free.
Right.
It's free. If they want to become a donor, if they'd like to stand the chance of saving someone's life, please, they've got to just give us a call. We have campaigns running to cover the cost of tests. That's why we raise funds. Bandana Day, we're currently running our biggest campaign ever. Bandana Day, and
Abigail,
this is to raise funds.
I always say that there are various levels of assistance in any matter.
Yes.
So sometimes if you feel that you don't have the guts or whatever it takes to do the test, and maybe you're not into all of that, for example, let's just say hypothetically, there are other ways to assist you doing what you do and what the team does at the moment.
Absolutely.
And that's one of it is to buy the bandanas and support that. The other one is to speak to other people and tell people, why don't you go and get yourself tested? So I'm saying that there are other levels, and I think people need to understand that if you want to and you want to be part of the campaign, it doesn't always mean getting tested. Maybe there's time that you could volunteer to go and talk to people in a mall. I don't know what it might be.
We're always looking for volunteers. We're always looking for people who would spread the word. You do have people that would call in and they want to become donors, but for health reasons or age reasons, they're unable to. What they do then is they pass the word on. You know, they'll send the donor information off to their friends and their family. And just think about it. Indirectly, if one of their relatives or friends end up being a match for a patient, they have indirectly saved a life by passing on that information. It's very simple. Buy a bandana, 25 Rand, you are helping save a life. Because when you look at it, at the end of the campaign, all those 25 Rands added together allows us to go out there and recruit so much more stem cell donors.
Abigail, we're going to go on a break. When we come back, we're going to talk to you about some real life cases that's on hand at the moment that we need to pay attention to and bring those stories to life so that you understand the impact of what we're seeing happening at the moment.